Good day, everyone. Welcome in physical science. Before we start, we'll be having our pre-test. So choose the letter of the best answer and write the chosen letter on a separate sheet of paper. Number one, it can be converted in form but not created nor destroyed. A. Atom. B. Energy. C. Force. D. Matter. 2. Energy that comes from sources that will run out or will not be replenished in our lifetimes, or even in many lifetimes. A. Kinetic. B. Non renewable. C. Potential. D. Renewable. 3. Organic matter from plants and animals, and this is what called microorganisms. A. Batteries. B. Biomass. C. Geothermal. D. Wind power. 4. It includes hydrocarbons such as coal, oil, and natural gas that comes from organic remains of prehistoric organisms. A. Batteries. B. Biogas. C. Fossil fuels. D. Solar power. 5. The main source of energy in Visayas region. A. Geothermal. B. Hydroelectric. C. Natural gas. D. Wind power. 6. This is the people's power because of the easy deployment of solar panels and where energy is shared among owners. A. Biofuel. B. Geothermal. C. Hydroelectric. D. Solar energy. 7. It is the world's most abundant fossil fuel. A. Coal. B. Natural gas. C. Oil. D. Petroleum. 8. This is the kind of renewable energy that is used to create methane and alcohol, which are fuels used in energy productions and in powering automobiles. A. Biomass. B. Geothermal. C. Hydroelectric. D. Solar wind. 9. He is an Italian physicist who invented the first battery. A. Alessandro Volta. B. Anton Lavoisier. D. Dmitry Mendeleev. D. Joseph Gay Lossack. 10. These are installed in strategic locations to harness the mechanical energy from the wind. A. Dams. B. Power plants. C. Wind turbines. And D. Windmills. 11. This renewable energy utilizes moving water to turn turbines. A. Biomass. B. Geothermal. C. Hydroelectric. D. Solar wind. 12. Around how many percent of electricity in Visayas is produced from geothermal power? A. 14%. B. 38%. C. 29%. D. 45%. 13. This renewable source of energy is less of environmental hazard compared to fossil fuels. A. Batteries. B. Biomass. C. Fossil. D. Geothermal. 14. These are installed in strategic locations where there is a substantial drop in elevation. A. Dams. B. Power plants. C. Wind turbines. D. Windmills. 15. The energy that comes from fossil fuels came from the sun through this process when the prehistoric plants were still alive. A. Cytokinesis. B. Meiosis. C. Mitosis. D. Photosynthesis. Okay, for the answers are 1B, 2B, 3B, 4C, 5A, 6D, 7A, 8A, 9A, 10C, 11C, 12B, 13D, 14A, and 15D. Our topic for today is how is energy produced and managed. After going through this lesson, you are expected to 1. Describe the different sources of energy, 2. Give a brief summary of how energy is produced from different sources, 3. Differentiate between renewable and non-renewable sources of energy, and 4. Outline the pros and cons of the different sources of energy. Energy is defined as the ability to do work. When work is done, energy is transferred from one object to another. Energy exists in different forms such as electrical and chemical energy. Most forms of energy can be classified as kinetic energy and potential energy. Kinetic energy is the energy processed or possessed by moving matter. Things with kinetic energy can do work. Kinetic energy depends on the object's mass and velocity. Potential energy is the energy stored in an object because of its position or shape. So when you say kinetic energy, it is an energy in motion, and when you say potential energy, it is an energy stored or at rest. Now for the activity, okay, this is entitled word pool. Okay, direction. To get started, you have to choose the terms related to energy from the word pool below. List down these words on the table on and write what you know about it on a separate sheet of paper. So we have here the box. So there are words here, and then you are going to write every word, their term, and what I know about it. A power plant is an industrial facility that generates electricity from the primary energy. Most power plants used one or more generators that convert mechanical energy into electrical energy in order to supply power to electric grid of a society's electrical needs. So the exceptions is solar power plants, which use photovoltaic cells instead of a turbine to generate this electricity. The type of primary fuel or primarily energy flow that provides a power plant, its primary energy varies. So the most common fuels are coal, natural gas, and uranium, or this is what we call nuclear power. A substantially used primary energy flow or electricity generation is hydroelectricity or water. So other flows that are used to generate electricity include wind or solar, geothermal, and tidal. So electrical sources can be broken down to two major groups, so renewable and non-renewable sources. Renewable source is produced from sources that do not deplete or can be replenished within a human's lifetime. So the most common examples include wind, solar, geothermal, biomass, and hydropower. So this is a non-contrast, okay, or to non-renewable sources, which is a natural resources that cannot be readily replaced by a natural means at a quick enough pace to keep up with a consumption. So the first renewable sources is geothermal. So geothermal energy is produced by the heat of an Earth's molten interior. So like this sample. So this energy is harnessed to generate electricity when water is injected deep underground, returns as steam or hot water, which is later converted into steam, right, to drive the turbine and the electric power generator that produces electricity. Geothermal energy is less of an environmental hazard compared to fossil fuels. Okay, though it has some emissions of our carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and sulfur oxide. Some of the operational geothermal plants in the Philippines are Malibara Geothermal Power Plant in Santo Tomas, Batangas. So Macban Geothermal Power Plant and Macban Binary Geothermal Power Plant in Bay Laguna. Okay, the Tiwi Geothermal Power Plant in Tiwi Albay, the Bacon Manito Geothermal Power Plant in Sorsogon, and uh, the next one is the Unified Leyte Geothermal Power Plant, Togona Geothermal Power Plant in Leyte, and the Sardin Negros Geothermal Power Production Field, Nasulo Geothermal Power Plant, and Panlipinon Geothermal Power Plant in Valenzuela, Negros Occidental. Okay, the other one is the hydroelectric power plant, or the hydroelectric power is derived from the energy of falling or moving water to generate electricity. Among the other purposes, water is widely used to produce electricity. Hydropower is a proven, mature, predictable, and price competitive technology. A number of on and off-grid hydropower plants have been built throughout the country, including impounding dams and runs of river types. So impounding dams are able to supply energy during the peak and off powers, and while run of river types supply electricity whenever capable, depending on the volume of water that is discharged from the watersheds. So a turbine converts the kinetic energy of falling water into mechanical energy. Then a generator converts the mechanical energy from the turbine into electrical energy. So the generator power is stepped up to higher voltage from a substation and then exported for transmission. And this is a sample for the hydroelectric power plant. Now, some of the operational hydroelectric power plants in the Philippines are number one, Palakpakin Hydroelectric Power Plant in San Pablo, Laguna. So this is sample for hydroelectric power plant. Number two is Balugbog Hydroelectric Power Plant in Narcarlan, Laguna. And three is Cantinas Hydroelectric Power Plant in San Fernando, Romblon. The third one is the wind power. So this sample for the wind power. So while an electric fan uses electricity to produce wind, a wind turbine uses wind to produce electricity. A wind turbine can generate megawatts of power depending on the weather conditions. In fact, an indicator for a potential wind farm site is the presence of flagging trees or trees that are bent like how a flag would look like due to strong winds. Because of the vast land area, a wind farm occupies unused areas can be located with agriculture crops or even a solar farm. Wind has been used in centuries to move ships and pump water. Wind turbines are installed in a strategic location to harness the mechanical energy from wind. Some of the most recent development are the Bangui Wind Farm, Burgos Wind Farm, and the Caparis Pisan Wind Farm in Ilocos Norte, and the wind energy power system in Oriental Mindoro, San Lorenzo Wind Farm in Guimaras, Nabas Wind Farm in Aklan, and Pililla Wind Farm in Rizal. Number four is solar cells. So this is sample for cells, the left side photo. If plants photosynthesize using sunlight, electric power technologies can also use sunlight for energy. Solar power is a variable energy source that is dependent on the cycle of the sun. So the Philippines being situated near the equator has many potential sites where solar energy may be harnessed. With recent technology, solar power systems can both apply to on and off-grid areas. Aggressive economic growth for the country is not far behind. As long as there is sunlight, solar power will always be available. Solar power technology may not generate an energy at night, but it is capable of supplying electricity to the grid at daytime. A solar cell or photovoltaic cell is a electric device that converts the energy of light directly into electricity by a photovoltaic effect, so which is a physical and chemical phenomenon. It is a form of photoelectric cell defined as device whose electrical characteristics such as a current voltage or resistance vary when exposed to light. So individual solar cell and devices are often the electrical building blocks of photovoltaic modules known colloquially as solar panels. Some of the operational solar power plants in the Philippines are Lian Solar Power uh, Project and Calatagan Solar Power Project in Calatagan, Batangas, Cavite Economic Zone Solar Power Project in Rosario and General Trias, Cavite, CW Home Depot Solar Power Project and Central Mall Binyan Solar Power Plant in Binyan City, Laguna. Solar energy is known as people's power, referring to easy deployment of solar panels and introductions of community solar gardens where energy is shared among owners. So solar energy is abundant, requires low maintenance and environmental friendly. Emissions associated with the manufacture of solar panels are present, but very minimal compared to pollution caused by burning fossil fuels. Two of the harmful emissions from the manufacture of solar panels are nitrogen trifluoride and sulfur hexafluoride. Both are potent greenhouse gases. Some disadvantages of solar power are it's expensive, requires rare metals, and requires a good amount of space. Thankfully, the technology is continuously improving. Number five is the biomass. So this is the process of a biomass. So biomass refers to the organic matter from plants and animals, microorganisms, organic wastes such as crop remains, manure, and garbage usually left to rot can use when electricity generation. Rice husk and or bagasse are burned as fuel to boil water. The steam from the boiling water is used to run steam turbines which is in turn drive generators to produce electricity. Wood is also biomass fuel. So as long as we replenish the trees that we cut, biomass can be sustainable energy source. Biomass is used to create methane and alcohol, which are fuels useful in energy production and powering automobiles. So production of biogas or biofuels involves the actions of microorganisms that break down organic matter in a multi-step process. So technologies utilizing biomass are continuously evolving in order to improve efficiency. Non-renewable sources, fossil fuels, so coal, oil, and gas are fossil fuels which have been formed over the last 600 million years. Coal is the fossilized remains of huge forests which covered many parts of the world in prehistoric times and hence contains biomass as the trees and plants died. They were covered in layers of silt and sand and under great pressure gradually became formed into coal power deposits. Coal is the world's most abundant fossil fuel, so it is relatively inexpensive and it's readily available. So the formation of fossil fuels is due to a series of geologic processes where the remains of organic life are accumulated in the ocean. Both are buried to eventually become part of geosphere. There are birds at the depths having high temperature and pressure where they are converted to oil, natural gas, or coal. So in the Philippines, around 69% of our electricity is derived from fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, and biomass. In the world, around 75% of our energy is generated by combustion of fossil fuels. Power plants burn fossil fuels, and the heat generated during this process is used to turn water into steam, and this turns the turbines. For number two, we have electrochemical batteries. So this sample for a battery and inside the battery. So this is the materials found inside the battery. A battery is a device that stores chemical energy and converts into electrical energy. So the chemical reactions in a battery involve the flow of electrons from one material or this water electrode to another through an external circuit. So the flow of electrons provide an electric current that can be used to do work. There are three main components of a battery: two terminals that have been different chemicals, typically metals, the anode and the anode and the cathode, and the electrolyte, which separates these terminals. So the electrolyte is a chemical medium that allows the flow of electrical charge between the cathode and anode. So batteries, compared to the sources, have low intensity, but they are commonly used since they are portable and efficient. Now for the activities that we're going to do. So summarize your understanding about the different sources of energy by filling out the table below. Use a separate sheet of paper, okay, for your answer. So we have here description, or we have the energy here, different sources of energy, and we have sources, examples, and advantage and disadvantage. Another activity, the title is construct a Venn diagram, point out the similarities and differences between renewable and non-renewable sources of energy by using Venn diagram on a separate sheet of paper. So this is the renewable energy sources and non-renewable sources, and of course we have the similarities and differences, okay, of the two. Next one is create a acrostic poem. So direction now that you have the knowledge about the different source of energy, create an acrostic poem using the word energy. So this is our rubrics, okay, for the said activity. Now for our assessment, so modify to or false, read each statement carefully, write true if the statement is correct. If the statement is false, so change the italicized word to make it true. So write your answer on a separate sheet of paper. Number one, biomass is used to create methane and alcohol, which are fuels useful in energy production and in powering automobiles. Two, electrical sources can be broken down into three major groups. Three, hydroelectric power utilizes the heat energy from the Earth's crust. Four, solar energy is abundant, requires low maintenance, and is environmentally friendly. Five, wind turbines are installed in strategic locations to harness the mechanical energy from the wind. Six, the caution is a chemical medium that allows the flow of electrical charge between the cathode and anode. Seven, the world's most abundant fossil fuel is natural gas. Eight, the most common fuels are coal, natural gas, and uranium nuclear power. 9. A generator converts the kinetic energy of falling water into mechanical energy. 10. Batteries have high intensity, but they are commonly used since they are portable and efficient. 11. Geothermal energy is less of environmental hazard compared to fossil fuels. 12. Waste such as crops remains, manure, and garbage are good source of biomass. 13. Non-renewable source is produced from sources that do not deplete or can be replenished within a human's lifetime. 14. An electric fan uses electricity to produce wind. 15. Water is widely used to produce electricity. Now for our answer, number one is true, number two is true, three is non-renewable, four is true, five true, six geothermal, seven true, eight coal, nine true, 10 true, 11 low, 12 true, 13 Alexandra Volta, and 14 is true, and 15 is Mindanao. For our additional activities, so direction make either a poster, a flyer, or a brochure on a product such as fuels, households, or personal care products, indicating its uses, properties, mode of action, and precautions. So that's it for today. Have a good day.